Overnight, the global focus remains the Middle East conflict and its economic spillovers. Israel's prime minister has ordered the military to further expand operations into southern Lebanon, framing it as part of a multi-front campaign against Iran and allied groups, including Hezbollah. The war is now into its second month, with Pakistan offering to host peace talks, though positions remain sharply opposed between the U.S., Israel and Iran. Energy security is the immediate global economic pressure point. The G7 says it is ready to take necessary measures to ensure energy market stability, as higher prices threaten inflation and growth. Ukraine's President Zelensky says allies have asked Kyiv to scale back attacks on Russian energy infrastructure as prices rise in the wake of the Iran war. In the U.S., President Trump has signaled both progress on an Iran deal and the threat of major strikes on infrastructure, including oil facilities and desalination plants, and has floated the idea of seizing Iran's key oil export terminal at Karg Island. The conflict is also widening into critical infrastructure. The Financial Times reports an Iranian strike on a Kuwaiti power and water plant, while Al Jazeera reports a missile attack on Israel's Haifa refinery area was contained. In other international developments, Myanmar's military chief has stepped down to seek the presidency, a move widely seen as an attempt to preserve military control behind a civilian facade. Spain has closed its airspace to U.S. aircraft involved in the Iran war, and a Russian oil tanker has reached Cuba after Trump appeared to loosen a blockade stance. Separately, U.S. immigration authorities have announced the death of another Mexican detainee in custody, prompting Mexico to signal formal protest steps. On artificial intelligence and the technological revolution, SBS reports a surge in AI-generated, deliberately inflammatory videos targeting Australian migrant communities, with overseas-based networks profiting from engagement. This sits alongside a broader regulatory push. ABC reports Australia is investigating Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok and YouTube over potential non-compliance with the teen social media ban, almost 4 months after the laws took effect. Turning to Australia, the major economic and political development is fuel price relief. The government has announced a 3-month halving of the fuel excise, a $2.55 billion measure that also provides relief for heavy vehicle operators. However, The Guardian reports motorists may not see cheaper prices at the bowser for days or weeks, depending on how quickly retailers run down higher-cost stock. The conversation calls the move smart politics, but flawed policy, arguing it doesn't address supply constraints and is poorly targeted. SBS also highlights the human impact, reporting the fuel crisis is disrupting vanlifers, including people for whom vehicle living is their primary shelter. For the Australian share market, the key watch today is energy-sensitive pricing and inflation expectations, global oil risk, potential supply disruption around the Strait of Hormuz, and domestic fuel policy will likely shape sentiment across transport, retail and resources. In public policy and the Australian public service context, the teen social media ban compliance investigations are a significant enforcement test, with implications for regulator capacity, platform accountability, and how government measures online harms linked to AI-generated content. Local and community updates include a major court outcome in Western Australia. ABC reports the killer of Perth woman Sharon Fulton has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years, 4 decades after the murder, and is likely to die in custody due to age and health. In Queensland, ABC reports major track closures across southeast Queensland from Easter, landing as fuel costs bite and travel demand rises. And in sport and health, ABC reports Diamonds player Kiera Austin has developed a period undershort aimed at reducing teenage girls dropping out of sport due to period management challenges.